welcome to the Baptist Broadcast. Thank you for tuning in from wherever it is you are getting your podcasts these days, iTunes, Spotify, some others. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to press the subscribe button, click the bell for continued notifications. If this content is helpful, give me a thumbs up. Share it on your social media. Visit joshsummer.substack.com. That is a good way to support this content through a paid subscription or not, and just get the free newsletter regularly, usually weekly, dropped into your email inbox. It is good to come on here this evening. In fact, I'm recording somewhat late, just because during the day there are things to do, and so sometimes you got to burn some extra oil, to do this. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I just kind of want to take a break from theology proper, natural theology. Not saying that it's not important enough to continue on. It's going to figure heavily into everything we do on this channel. So I'm not going to, forget about it or neglect it. It's been forgotten enough elsewhere. So I'm certainly not going to forget about it here on this channel. It's going to really be the driving force behind everything I do here. So doctrine of God is going to always play a part here on the Baptist Broadcast. But I would like to shift gears and ask the question whether or not the King James Version, as a translation, as an English translation, could be improved upon. Some people will argue, and this is not the majority opinion, those who hold to a KJV priority, or a TR priority, a TR position, TR, I don't know what you call it, Textus Receptus Onlyist or whatever. This is the minority position, or at least that's my kind of take on it. I think it's the minority position. I haven't done an actual stat, but in terms of what I encounter mostly, this position that I'm about to articulate is the minority. But there are some people who say the King James Version, as an English translation, cannot be improved upon. And I want to show just one place where the King James Version, as an English translation, could be improved upon. And I'm not going to bring in the other manuscript traditions, the majority text, the stuff that the critical textual guys look at, the other manuscript sets and all of that. I'm not going to bring that into the discussion. I'm going to keep this very simple. And I'm only going to talk about really two documents. That is the King James Version itself and the Textus Receptus, which is the manuscript or the Greek version that the King James Version is translated from. The Textus Receptus, Greek version of the New Testament that the King James Version is translated from. I just want to show, because the claim has been that the King James Version cannot be improved upon, period. It is like another representation of God's inspired work through, in this case, translators, and it has resulted in an inerrant English translation and an infallible English translation. But what I'm going to show is that it is indeed an errant translation and could be improved upon. If you have your Bibles, turn to 2 John. Turn to 2 John, and I am going to go to verse 7. 2 John, verse 7. And actually, let me see if I can pull up the correct... Oops, that's not right. Let's see if this will work here. All right, this will indeed work. looking at the, let's see, what is this? Stephen's Textus Receptus is 1550. And I'm gonna compare the Greek of the 1550 TR with the English translation of 2 John verse 7. And I'm going to show that in that area, the King James Version can be improved upon. So if you look at verse 7, 2 John verse 7, I do not have it pulled up so I can share it on the screen here. Hold on, let me actually work on doing that. I would like to do that if possible. Let's just do this. We'll do a window capture, and we will capture Logos. Boom. How convenient is that? I'm going to shrink it down so it's obviously not going to be perfectly visible, and I will turn up the volume of the text size here to 100. Should be able to see that on the English side, and then over here on the Greek side I will do the same. Okay, you should be able to, if you have full screen on, you should be able to see that. Maybe a little hard on the phone or on a tablet, but I've got it just, I think, as big as it'll go. So, all right, so go to, okay, so on this side, you see here, that is the English, obviously. And then over here, we have the Greek from the Textus Receptus, the document from which the New Testament of the King James is translated from. So we're looking here at verse 7. Notice carefully in the English, verse 7, 2 John, says, "For many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist." So that last line is what I'm concerned with. That last sentence. If this last sentence can be shown to be a bad translation, or at least a translation that could be improved based on what the TR reading is, assuming that the TR is the right manuscript set from which we should translate the New Testament, which I don't necessarily agree with. But let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that the TR is the right manuscript from which the New Testament of the Bible should be translated from. Is 2 John 7, this last sentence here, in accord with it? And my argument is that it is, my contention is that it is not. If you look here, kind of corresponding to where we are over on the English side, toward the end of verse 7 in the Greek, you see ha planos kai ha antichristos. Okay, that phrase is translated as this is a deceiver and an antichrist. All right, so planos, you have deceiver, and ha antichrist, or antichristos in the Greek. These two characters right here that look like O's, those are pronounced similarly to O's, but usually if you look at the actual translation, there is a rough breathing mark over those, which means it would be pronounced like an H, kind of like ha 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 if you're laughing. And that is a definite article in the Greek. Now, the Greek doesn't have an indefinite article. In English, a definite article is usually expressed by the term the, and an indefinite article is usually expressed by the term a. Like, I have a church, or I'm part of a church, versus I am part of the church, right? Okay, so those are examples in English of a definite the and indefinite article, okay? Here in the Greek, there's only a definite article. There is no indefinite article. So, for example, if you go to like John 1 through 3, there is no definite article there, and the Jehovah's Witnesses want to say, well, that means we can supply an indefinite article. A God. The word was a God. He wasn't God himself, but he was a God, or he was God-like, right, in that case. And they make that argument because in translation work, you have to, if there should be an indefinite article there in whatever language it's being translated into, then you can supply that indefinite article because it's not there in the Greek. But if context dictates that you shouldn't add that definite article, then you shouldn't, right? So sometimes it ends up being a contextual argument. Anyway, in the Greek, there is no indefinite article, which means that if you want to specify something, you would use you would use ha. You would use the definite article, right? In this case, it's ha. It's not always ha, but in this case, it is. Which means you have to use it for a reason, right? It's not just in there by accident. It's not just thrown in there flippantly. It's put in there for a reason. And in this case, like I said, a definite article would translate into the English as the term the, okay? Specifying, right? Specifying whatever it is attached to, whatever it is referring to. So in this case, we would translate this passage right here, this line, just this line, the deceiver and the Antichrist. As it is, verse 7 of 2 John in the King James Version actually mistranslates those two definite articles by turning them into indefinite articles in the English translation, where it says a deceiver and an Antichrist. Those are indefinite articles in the English. But in the Greek, clearly we see definite articles used. And so this is a clear example of a mistranslation that's actually inconsistent with the manuscript or with the Greek New Testament that it's translated from. All right, so it's actually inconsistent with the TR. And so hopefully this was helpful. I don't really have anything more than that. Although I do think it's useful to look at examples like this, and I know for myself, I've received phone calls from King James onlyists who want to debate the infallibility of the King James translation. And so I found this to be actually a very helpful observation in conversations like that, where you can say, look, actually, the King James Version can be improved upon. It's not a perfect translation. And so, anyway, it's just something to add to the conversation. Hopefully it's helpful. Guys, if you did find it helpful, please don't forget to click the subscribe button. Also, visit joshsummer.substack.com. Love to see you there. Subscribe to the newsletter so that you get the newsletter in your email inbox. And also, a paid subscription helps to support video content like this. God bless.